please, don't try anything that you're about to see us do at home. Ever.
On this episode of Mythbusters, it's all aboard with Cary, Grant, and Tori when they test the tall tale of a train track disaster.
That's going to be so cool!
Is it possible for a passing train to suck you off the platform? Then Jamie and Adam take to the skies to tackle the classic classroom myth.
Learning every minute.
That you can't make a concrete glider fly.
This thing was done.
Who are the Mythbusters? Adam Savage.
Ants are all over my head, man.
And Jamie Heineman.
Gets me all worked up just looking at it.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
That was heavy.
Joining them, Grant Imahara.
Go get him, boy.
Tori Belleci.
Somebody order some exploding pants.
And Cary Byron.
Oh, God!
They don't just tell the myths. They put them to the test.
So, Grant, you take the train a lot, which is kind of weird because most people drive or take planes.
I like the train.
That's cool. But, you know, there's this one myth, though, that if you stand too close to a passing train, it can create suction and pull you into the train.
There is a yellow line to help protect you, so maybe that has something to do with it.
This urban folklore conjures up every commuter's worst nightmare. Can the air pressure caused by a fast-moving train actually suck a person right off the platform and onto the rails?
I have an original idea. Let's start in the small scale. Let's go find like a model train and build a wind tunnel and do some testing to see if you actually even have any suction.
The first order of business is to set up a wind tunnel and blow some smoke across a model train. So while Grant huffs and puffs putting the wind tunnel together, Tori and Cary get to go model shopping. At San Antonio Hobby, Frank the Train Man has everything the guys need. And he's got some positive news for the myth.
If you stand too close to a train and it's going fast enough, it can suck you under.
There's no better way of finding your inner child than stalking the aisles of a hobby store.
Let go of the trains. Let go of the trains, honey.
Remember the golden rule.
What's that?
You never have too many trains.
Before the guys derail this sequence completely,
Now that's cool.
a timely phone call from Station Master Grant gets everything back on track.
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Grant, what's going on?
Hey, I've been reading up on the research and I have some new information for you.
All right, go ahead.
A freight train, it's got a much rougher aerodynamic profile than a passenger train. A passenger train's pretty smooth, and that can generate a higher slipstream at half the speed of a passenger train.
So according to Grant, odd-shaped freight cars might be the best bet. But as the myth is all about an unsuspecting commuter, they take home a passenger train as well.
Man down.
Man down.
Back at Grant Central Station, our station master is busy making a wind tunnel. And using a NASA-inspired idea, it's a breeze.
What they use in regular commercial wind tunnels is a honeycomb. It's many densely packed small holes.
These holes reduce turbulence from the wind source and smooth out the airflow. And check out the big brain on Grant, because he's found a cut-price substitute for high-tech honeycomb. Drinking straws. 47,000 of them. And with the wind tunnel ready to blow, it's time to get set for the test. But what are they looking for?
There are three areas that we're going to be looking at. There's a high-pressure zone right in front of the train at the nose, the slipstream, which is a thin layer of air going over the sides,
and then right at the back of the train, a low pressure area called the wake. Hopefully with this, we'll be able to see smoke swirling around at the back, which would tell us that it's getting sucked into there.
So Grant thinks the wake is the key to this myth. Could this swirling ultra-low pressure vortex, kind of a mini tornado, be powerful enough to pull someone off their feet and onto the rails?
Tori, for this first test, do you want to turn the wind on? And Grant, you could be the scout. I'll turn on the smoke.
The team's wind tunnel works a treat, so testing proceeds. First, with a passenger car.
Yeah. Right there, little cyclone.
That's good. I see the little vortex.
And then the odd-shaped freight cars, which, like Grant suggested, appear to cause more turbulence.
We're getting a lot of vortex at the end here.
It's tough to see it in real time, but the high-speed camera confirms what our 3 sets of eagle eyes suspected. The small-scale trains really do suck.
You still have a little collection of smoke right behind the train.
And that's exactly what we're looking for.
Yes.
That's a green light to proceed to the next station. And Carrie, for one, is excited.
We need full scales, full winds, full-size people getting sucked into the train. That's going to be so cool!
Concrete glider.
The classic engineering school challenge. You can't make a lead balloon. You cannot make a glider out of concrete.
That's it. Somehow we've got to build a glider out of concrete.
Adam and Jamie are on familiar ground when it comes to taking off with crazy contraptions.
Pilot to Bombardier, do you read? Over.
The Mythbusters have attempted to get airborne with a jetpack.
It really is ridiculous.
Launch Jade the Simulade into the bay with bottle rockets.
3, 2, 1!
And take Adam on a helium life raft ride.
Oh, it's very satisfying. Oh, I shouldn't do that.
But this time, it's mission seemingly impossible. Can our intrepid duo conquer the skies with a concrete glider?
How are we going to get around the fact that concrete, to my knowledge, always has like rocks and gravel in it that's going to make it really hard to make a glider out of?
Well, the key component in concrete is Portland cement. And the gravel and the sand and things like that can be substituted for other things, and some of them are a lot lighter weight.
Oh, so I mean, we should actually just do a bunch of testing. First of all, mix up some concrete mixes that use lighter weight aggregates and see if we can actually lose a lot of that heavy weight.
Yeah.
So first up, they're going to learn how to lighten up their heavyweight building material.
This is a standard concrete mix. It's 1 part cement, 2 parts sand, and 3 parts gravel.
In addition to the standard mix, Jamie makes up 3 more with various lightweight aggregates. Beanbag foam beads, pumice, and lastly, a material made up of tiny glass beads called micro balloons. Now they just have to let it set. And because watching concrete dry ain't exactly Emmy award-winning material, let's come back when that's done. After the break, Jamie and Adam meet up Bright Spark from NASA, and he fires them up with some good news.
I'll bet you can make a concrete glider that'll fly.
With 6 billion cubic meters made every year, it's the most common man-made substance on the planet. Buildings, bridges, and freeways are all made of this ubiquitous material. But the question is, can you use it to make a glider? And will it fly? For answers, Adam and Jamie have come to Moffett Field NASA Ames Research Center for a crash course in aerodynamics. And glider guru Dr. Steve Smith has some good news.
I'll bet you can make a concrete glider that'll fly. The whole question is weight. So if you build a concrete glider with some reinforcing structure inside and a lot of filler so that the concrete plus all the other stuff is still pretty light, then of course the speed required to fly to make enough lift to support its weight will come down, and you may get down slow into the typical range that modern sailplanes fly.
Have you ever heard of a glider being made out of concrete?
So actually, yeah, the Germans experimented with a concrete winged glider in World War II to be used as a glide bomb. I think it had some kind of a steel core, steel structure inside for structural strength, but they basically used concrete as a very cheap, quick way to form a wing shape around it.
Now, there is definitely a lot of food for thought that we got from Dr. Smith here. I thought this was totally ridiculous, and I thought maybe we'd get something that would fall less hard. But, I mean, the information we got here says that we ought to be able to make something that's actually fairly respectable as aerodynamic and made out of concrete.
Back at the shop, and the concrete is ready for the weigh-in. And no one is surprised when the standard concrete, the one with the rocks in it, is heavier than the alternative aggregates.
Based on this first test, there's some pretty impressive variances in the weight. Everything from foam beads at 68 pounds up to concrete at 115. It looks like we'll be able to come up with a mixture that might be light enough. The question is, can it stand up to the type of pressures we're going to put it under? We're going to have to do some strength testing.
In other words, they need to beef up their lightweight concrete recipe with some muscle.
The single biggest problem with the concrete glider is the concrete. Concrete has compressive strength but no tensile strength, which means you can put a block of it down on the ground. You can sit hundreds of thousands of pounds on that block and it won't crush. But you can make a thin sheet of it, push it through with your finger, and it'll crack. So we're going to need to look at ways to strengthen the concrete. And one of the ways is with an additive material that adds a structure inside the concrete that makes it more flexible and more prone to bending without breaking.
So Adam and Jamie need to know which concrete reinforcers work best in thin slabs. And they cast up several, including carbon fiber mesh and pre-stressed cable. After leaving them to cure, Jamie is ready to test their tensile strength with his trusty force gauge.
Okay, so this is cable reinforcement. Ooh, very significant. We tested 4 different types of reinforcements. Each of those increased the strength to some degree on the concrete samples. The standout was the cable reinforcement.
So Adam and Jamie have some concrete information, and they've passed Aerodynamics 101 with flying colors. It's time to get started on the build.
So I don't know if you've heard, but we're going to do this as a build-off.
I hate build-offs.
I know you hate the build-offs, but look at it this way. While we might be able to make a more successful concrete glider working together, working separately, we're going to illustrate 2 completely different ways of solving the problem and cover a lot more ground.
Whatever.
The pointless competition, so loved by fans, so hated by the Mythbusters. Adam hates losing, which happens a lot.
I'm going to kick your goldfish ass.
And Jamie, well, there's nothing about these head-to-head contests he enjoys, except the cheating. Which is why Adam is insisting on guidelines set in concrete. There must be total secrecy. The glider can be built to any scale, and the winner will be determined by who achieves the longest relative flight. So let's hear from competition Scrooge Jamie, who he thinks will win.
I have no idea who's going to win, and I don't care.
Bah! Humbug! Coming up, the train suction story puts Tori in the firing line. And Jamie and Adam continue their crash course in gliding. We're we're back on track with the tall tale that a passing train could make your day really suck. The story so far has seen Carrie, Grant, and Tori testing toy trains in a wind tunnel, and the results mean they can move on to the next chapter.
Well, that was really interesting. I mean, looks like we do have some suction. Those small-scale tests definitely showed some smoke vortex at the end of the model trains. I guess the real question now is that enough suction to pull you off into the tracks?
Well, I mean, now we need to go to full scale, and we still haven't found anybody who's willing to let us use their train. So, any ideas how we're going to test this one?
I got an idea. I think we should get out the chicken cannon and set that up and choose one of us as a test subject, purely at random, not it, and then see what effect the increased wind speed has on our bodies.
So, let's dust off the Mythbusters' favorite.
Why do you have the chicken cannon out?
Because we're going to start shooting each other with it.
It was first used to test if a stray, high-flying bird could crash through an airplane canopy.
This is a frozen chicken.
And this is no toy. You're watching frozen poultry propelled at 121 miles per hour.
Wow!
But on this test, the only chicken inside is nervously shuffling his feet at the business end of the barrel.
I don't think it's going to push me over. But then I've been wrong before.
Now, remember, they're not just doing this for fun. If they can work out what kind of wind speed and air pressure knocks Tori off his feet, they'll have some data to crunch when they get to play with a full-size train.
We're just going to send Tori just straight into the fence behind us.
That'd be cool.
You're the crash test dummy after Buster.
Because he's not as easy to repair as Buster, on their first test, they're starting at just 30 psi. And to measure the wind speed, Grant has a handy little device called an anemometer.
What we're going to do is set Tori up just as if he were standing on a railway platform waiting for a train. So, in other words, he's not going to be braced and ready to be hit. He's just going to be standing on his feet just like anyone would be standing.
Tori plucks up all his courage, checks the newspaper for great deals on health insurance, and tries not to brace for the blast.
I hear funny noises. Must be the train.
The 30 psi gust rustles up a wind speed of 24 miles per hour, and Tori is slightly unbalanced. Now the guys want to ramp it up and see what it takes to suck you off the platform. Adam and Jamie are not only taking on the myth that you can't make a glider out of concrete, they're flying solo.
So what I'm going to do is buy a model glider kit, and I'm going to add weight to it until it just barely achieves what I need it to achieve. And then I will use that kit either as a mold or a guide for creating a concrete airplane.
Remember, the rules state they can build on any scale. So Jamie goes shopping for a toy glider to use as a mold.
This type of airplane right here has the most exceptional lift to it, much stronger material.
Jamie selects two to test with. The first is a stealth bomber model that has excellent lift but is extremely unstable. And the second is a U-2 spy plane, which, with its glider-like wings, also has great lift but is less sensitive. Back at M5, and while Jamie is using pragmatic shortcuts, Adam is taking a more intuitive approach. Basically, he's going to wing it.
Trying to come up with a visceral understanding of exactly what it takes to make something fly. I don't just want to follow someone else's design and then have it screw up on me because, well, I just followed someone else's design.
Incredibly, Adam's make-it-up-as-you-go-along approach seems to be working.
That's cool. Right there, that's cool.
I'm going to do some actual, like, almost kite tests with this, just to try and figure out how this kind of size of glider might work. I'm just trying to learn all about everything I need to know within a day. Okay, learning every minute.
It's a learning curve of precipitous proportions, but the addition of a tail fin provides some stability, and he seems pretty happy.
That's good. That's a good test.
Which means it's time to move on.
I want to do a little more research. I might want to rebuild this thing in wood just to try the design out. Still not quite as heavy as the concrete. But if the wood flies, then I don't see any reason why the concrete shouldn't be able to.
Now that looks like a crash and burn.
That was about a 1-to-1 glide ratio. Like it fell about, it looks about 25 feet away. It's about how high I am. And that was still a little bit lighter than the concrete will be.
And with take two no better, it looks like it's time for the Mythbuster patented Plan B.
So if I had built a concrete airplane this size, I mean, it would be known as a rock. I'm going to need to scale back, smaller, to try and get something successful.
Meanwhile, Jamie has spent an hour rigorously testing his shop-bought model gliders.
Okay, that was a good test.
And he's pretty sure a hybrid of the stealth bomber wing with the fuselage of the U-2 bomber is the best flyer.
Well, it looks like this wing design is the winner.
Next, Jamie weighs down the model to see what the maximum payload is.
Well, based on this test, I believe this is about the maximum that I could go. I think I should be under this, but definitely no more than this. I'm going to go ahead and weigh this now, and we'll see what kind of volume of concrete that translates to.
So according to Jamie, if he can make this glider out of concrete and keep it to less than 800 grams, he might just get this myth off the ground. Up next, Carrie and Grant find another dummy for their train suction tests. And our concrete aviators get a heavy reality check.
This thing weighs a ton. Hey, don't try what you're about to see at home. We're what you call experts.
That's right. We do this for a living.
Millions of us commute by train every day. So, is it possible we're just one step away from disaster? And if a fast-moving train can really suck you off the platform, the next generation of super trains traveling at 223 miles per hour could be lethal. Putting his body on the line for the myth, Tori has discovered a blast of air at 30 psi, which generates a wind speed of 24 miles per hour, won't knock you off your feet.
That was nothing. Let's do 100 psi.
Tori, how about 50 psi?
I'm gonna give it. Oh, dang. It blew my cover off. Whoa! That was sweet!
Tori's still standing, but only just.
Didn't knock you over on your butt, though.
No, but it definitely knocked me back.
That 50 psi shot of air notched up a wind speed of 46 miles per hour, and Tori struggled to stay standing. It looks like the team have their knockout numbers.
So really the indication, if your paper shreds when the train passes, you're standing too close.
You might be standing too close.
But the big question is yet to be answered. Can a full-scale train generate that kind of wind speed in reverse? will the wake at the rear of the train suck at 46 miles per hour? Fortunately for Tori, he won't be the one standing on the platform to find out. That job goes to Buster's ballistics gel brother, Ted. Our fall guy needs to be as lifelike as possible. That means building a rigid frame to support the legs and gel-coated ropes to bolster the arms.
This is the ballistic material, and I've coated a piece of rope. And this is just so that when we pull it out, the arms don't just rip off the body.
Once Ted pulls himself together, he gets filled up from the neck down. Tori pours in enough ballistics gel to fatten up our mannequin to a healthy 200 pounds. Big enough to prove almost anyone could be sucked off a railway platform to a grisly death.
Yeah, it's kind of weird looking, huh?
The weigh-in confirms he's in fighting shape.
207 pounds. He's a big boy.
It's all muscle.
Yeah. Okay.
Now all Ted needs is to get ahead. Modern gliders or sailplanes make it look so easy. Their state-of-the-art designs and space-age materials contribute to incredible glide ratios of over 40 to 1. That's 40 miles of travel to 1 mile of vertical drop. Adam and Jamie have got the tough job of trying to recreate that effortless flight with a glider made of concrete. So far, Jamie's having some success. He's made a mold from his toy glider and carefully mixed cement, sand, fiberglass, and water into paper-thin wing sections. And the fresh concrete mix is almost ready for curing. Jamie may be up and away.
I don't know how to build airplanes.
But Adam is still grounded.
So I looked into the origins of the glider, and I come across Cayley and his proto-original coachman-carrying glider. Cayley was an amazing aeronautical experimentalist. He died, I think, in the mid-1800s, 50 years before the Wright brothers' first flight with a powered airplane.
So Adam finally has a design. Now he's got some catching up to do.
Well, now I got to draw out the pattern on this foam, and then I got to start like sanding and sculpting it.
With the mold ready to go, Adam lays out carbon fiber mesh for strength. And then he casts his lightweight concrete mix onto the foam mold. And like Jamie, it's just a question of getting his concrete glider to cure. But this being Mythbusters, time is of the essence.
I am prepping my mold to hopefully set faster than 28 days, which is the recommended setting time for this concrete.
Keeping the concrete moist in a warm environment is as much as they can do to encourage the curing process. Concrete sets in hours, but curing is a chemical process that takes weeks. Jamie is first to find out if their accelerated curing technique has worked.
That's got to be about the thinnest piece of concrete you ever saw.
So far, so good. But as he assembles the wing sections, Jamie finds he has a weightier problem than the curing process. His maximum weight of 800 grams has been busted.
Right now it weighs about 1,300 grams, which is about twice what it needs to weigh for it to be in the worst case scenario where it just barely is flying. This was originally just the bottom section, not a very structural part of the original wing. But seeing as how it was so overweight, now this becomes the actual wing itself. By putting a little bend in it, I think we'll get to the same place.
With the weight problem taken care of, assembly begins. With Jamie on the runway and ready for takeoff, let's find out how his wingman Adam is doing.
Feels good. I've got some hopes for this.
With the Cayley glider set, it's time to release it from the mold. And using an old model maker's trick, Adam dissolves the foam with acetone. But now he's got an issue with excess baggage.
This thing weighs a ton. I don't have a target weight. Just super crazy light was what I was hoping for. So I got a bit of work pulling out as much weight as I can.
So to get the Cayley glider down to a reasonable flying weight, Adam and his angle grinder have got a long day ahead. After the break, find out if Ted takes a tumble onto the train tracks. Then Adam and Jamie square up for a showdown.
This thing is going to drop like a stone when he lets it go.
Our team of train spotters have tested toy trains for turbulence. They've toppled Tori with a tug of war and turned him into chicken cannon fodder. It's time to take this test to the full scale. After months of searching, our researchers have found a railroad in Albuquerque, New Mexico that's willing to give it up for science.
I was very pessimistic about this myth until I saw the size of this train. It's huge. I can't believe anybody's going to give us something this big to play with. I could see this actually being true.
If Ted could speak, he'd probably be screaming, "Why me?" But misery truly does love company, and he won't be alone out there.
Something else we'd like to try today. We brought a baby stroller with us.
It's not part of the myth, but train-traveling parents often have their stroller with them. And because it's on wheels, the guys think it will help illustrate the suction effect. The stroller may get pulled off the platform, even if Ted and his 200 pounds are unmoved.
No, his back wants to be to the train. It's like he's got a headphone on. He's listening to music. He doesn't know the train's coming. Okay.
The expression says it all. Ted ain't exactly confident, but Tori thinks his chances of survival are good.
My feeling is the train's going to go through. There's probably going to be a lot of rumbling. It might knock the dummy over, but I don't think the suction is actually going to be strong enough to pull the dummy in.
The last thing to do before the potentially lethal drive-by is to set up Grant's wind speed gauges. With that done, it's time to set this test in motion. 3 miles away, Robert set his train a-rolling, slowly building up to the legal speed limit of 79 miles per hour.
Should be here any second.
That was intense. Ted's been tipped sideways, and the stroller snapped its line. In fact, it's taken out a camera.
So the stroller, the line snapped. It got pushed so hard.
Are you serious?
It sucked that way.
Oh, jeez. My God.
So any mom that has her stroller that close to the train.
But was it suction or was it more just the gust of air that pushed him over?
With so much happening so quickly, it's difficult to tell what's going on. But the replay seems to indicate the stroller being blown along the platform. And there's no sign of Ted getting sucked onto the tracks. The myth of the concrete glider has brought Adam and Jamie head-to-head in an aviation dogfight. And to find out who's going to be Top Gun and who's going to be the goose, it's time to get a visual on the enemy bogey.
Ta-da! Ah, well, it looks like something right out of Leonardo's day.
It's actually modeled on Cayley's glider. It is, in fact, his most successful glider that carried a person, and it weighs a bloody ton.
Yup. his thing is going to drop like a stone when he lets it go. I mean, you can see by the shape, it's not got very much lift involved. I'm guessing that it barely has any more lift than mine does, and yet it weighs several times as much. So I don't have a whole lot of hopes for it.
Let's see your fragile, wilting bird of a plane.
Okay.
It looks like a glider.
I did testing on something that was a foam version of this.
Yeah.
And this is under the weight that I tested and still considered it to sail.
And at the weigh-in,
in this corner, weighing in at...
the scales confirm Adam's worst fears. At just over 600 grams, Jamie's wilting bird is a featherweight.
This is basically concrete with a few pieces of string, and I think it's a fantastic attempt at foiling the myth that you can't make a glider out of concrete.
Adam is next, and with over 2 kilos of Cayley glider, he's definitely in the heavyweight division. So with a heavy heart and glider, Adam has defeat firmly in his grasp.
Let's set up a wind tunnel test so we can figure out how many different ways you've probably beaten me in this contest.
Okay.
Using Grant's drinking straw technique, Adam breezily whips up a wind tunnel. With the makeshift wind tunnel up and running, Adam and Jamie can measure their glider's lift-to-weight ratio. They'll do this by weighing the glider in front of the fan. Any lift their glider achieves will result in a weight reduction.
Yeah, I'm seeing, on average, probably just about a max of 200 grams of lift there.
By my best guess, my glider was receiving about 38% of its total weight in lift.
38% is impressive. With a decent launch speed, that will increase, and it may just be enough. Next up is Adam's Cayley glider.
Well, it's nice that I can feel some lift, but this thing is heavy.
His lift-to-weight ratio is well down on Jamie's. It's only generating half as much lift.
Yeah, it spikes up to 350.
My glider did not seem to perform as well as Jamie's. Actually, about half as well.
At this stage, Adam is thinking his heavyweight contender won't stand a chance against Jamie's featherweight champion. But with both fighters ready to rumble, it's time to pack up and head back to NASA to let these concrete creations fly. Next, stand by for some more train track turbulence. And Jamie and Adam are all set up for countdown.
Oh, buddy.
Carrie, Grant, Tori, and Ted have survived a train track flyby. With no sign of the mythical suction on the first run, it's take 2. But this time, the train will be going backwards, with the blunt end leading and the aerodynamic engine at the rear.
Look at the stroller.
Oh my God!
Look at the stroller. He got thrown off the platform. What?
Incredibly, Ted is still standing. He wasn't even blown back. But Grant's battery of wind gauges has its own tale to tell.
On our first run, with the train coming this way,
Yeah.
and the aerodynamic tip leading,
Yeah.
we had parallel to the train, wind speed of 49.9. The second run, with the flat end leading coming this way, we had on this one 26.8.
Whoa.
So the wind speed on that run was actually less.
So according to the figures from the chicken cannon tests, both runs generated enough wind to make a typical guy stumble. But it's all blowing straight out or parallel to the track. It looks like the turbulence, moving with the train and away from the track, trumps any wake effect there may be following the train. Once again, Robert the driver winds his engine up to full speed. Ted finds himself face down on the platform, and the stroller's missing in action, so no one was sucked onto the train tracks for a dice with death. And with no obvious results, it's back to the shop to study the high-speed camera and piece together the data.
Looks like all the wind is running parallel to the train.
I'm definitely not seeing any suction.
The first and third runs had the most violent effects, but there was no sign of any suction. The winds blasting outwards and sideways were far stronger than any vortex that may have been created behind. If Ted had felt any suction, that tie rope would be as taut as fencing wire.
So what do we come to for a conclusion for train suction?
Oh, it's busted.
Totally busted.
But still really, really dangerous to stand that close.
You don't want to stand very close to the train.
You do not want to be there.
Unless you're psycho.
Ow! Well, Adam, what are you doing? It's time to test these things.
Are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Me too.
Okay, let's go.
It's launch day, and in search of perfect test conditions, our pioneering pilots touch down back at the NASA Ames Research Center.
We're back at Moffett Field's Hangar number 2 where we shot helium football, and it's ideal for the concrete glider tests for the same reasons it was ideal for helium football. We can close the doors of this huge space and eliminate any wind.
Dr. Steve Smith, Mythbusters' font of all flying facts, is there to check out the designs and offer some last-minute advice.
Crucial question on this one is going to be where the center of gravity is so that it trims.
Well, where should it be?
So somewhere probably between 25 and 30% of the length, maybe.
About right here?
Next, Jamie presents his featherweight wilting bird. But does Dr. Smith think it'll fly more like a paperweight?
Yeah, that's impressive. That's beautiful. Cables stayed bracing and everything. Look at that.
It's paper thin.
Wow. Oh.
Dr. Smith's upbeat reaction to their designs has fueled their enthusiasm. But his advice means Adam and Jamie have some tweaking, trimming, and testing to do. To get the balance right, Adam is stealing another of George Cayley's design ideas and adding a gondola. The weight beneath the wing can be adjusted to move the center of gravity. Plus, it should stabilize the glider in flight. Jamie has also been busy shifting his glider's center of gravity further forward.
It looks stupid, but we don't care about that right now. It's a concrete airplane. What are you going to do?
It may have been called Big Nose at glider school, but it's ready to fly. And while Jamie has been picking his glider's nose, Adam's been getting some launch advice.
I figured out with Dr. Smith's help. Actually, Dr. Smith figured out with my help. And by help, I mean I supplied him with measurements. He was able to calculate that it should fly at around 20 to 22 miles per hour, about 30 feet per second, if it is to hit its ideal speed to glide ratio.
And because his throwing arm won't manage 2 miles an hour, never mind 22, he's got a cunning plan. He's going to use a zip line, tow line, and quick release.
That mark is where the pin gets pulled out and my glider starts flying on its own.
Adam then optimistically marks out a target distance of 50 feet.
That's how far I want to travel. Now, I'm about to let go of this. You got the hook?
Yep.
Oh, buddy.
Okay.
Everything's in place. I'm going to go down there and grab the tow line.
Last call for the departure of Concrete Airways Flight 101.
3, 2, 1, go.
Well, the launch was successful, and Adam's Cayley glider has survived relatively intact. But how far did it glide?
Well, let's see where oh, there's my 50-foot mark, 55 feet, so I didn't make that. Looks kind of like I hit maybe at like 20 feet. So I didn't get my glide ratio I was hoping for.
But hold on, there's a catch. Adam thinks his glider released from the zip line and began flying on its own at a height of 20 feet before gliding a distance of 20 feet. But there's been a recount.
My glider released from its catch off of its guideline at about 9 feet off the ground. It then flew close to 34 feet before hitting the ground. Now, 4 times 9 is 36, so 34 feet means I came devilishly close to a 4-to-1 glide ratio. I'm stunned, actually. I could not be more pleased with these results. I know I was shooting for 55 feet, but really, I was hoping for anything over a solid drop into the ground.
Incredibly, Adam has gone from underdog to top cat. Jamie steps up to the plate, but he's stubbornly sticking to a manual launch from the stairwell, despite Adam's successful flight.
I don't want to screw around and, get some kind of, zip line going and all this kind of stuff. I'm just going to throw it and see what it does. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Well, there you go.
Jamie's wilting bird took flight and then took a nosedive. In other words, his concrete glider was all concrete and no glide.
Congratulations, you won.
I'm going to enjoy this for the short while that it lasts.
Jamie's 1-to-1 glide ratio was not even close to matching Adam's soaring achievement of 4-to-1. And, it's possible Adam will let Jamie forget about this.
It's not really about who wins or loses. It's really just about illustrating the concept.
But I won.
But unlikely. All gloating aside, what about the myth? Did the guys prove anything about the concept of a concrete glider?
Aerodynamics of planes don't scale up very easily from small to human size. But that being said, I think there is actually a tiny chance that that one could build a human-sized concrete glider. I'm not sure that I would get into it, but I'd certainly give Buster a ride.
Well, Adam, I don't think either of us were really that happy with the gliders, but we did prove that it can be done.
I'd call it plausible, but not recommended.
Yeah, the big thing for me is that you only got one shot at it. It's brittle. If you crash with the things, it's over.
But, I think we also proved that if you really think through your launch and you do it correctly, that you can actually get some gliding done.
We're strutting a little bit, are we?
Sure.
Okay, well,
I'll enjoy it while I can.
So we're plausible.
Plausible.
But not recommended.
Exactly.